What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, I'm really excited to bring you the full review of the McNees Mac 2. This knife was sent over by Sat2 Dave. Feel free to check out his channel, and if you like it, subscribe. He's also on Instagram if you like to watch posts of knife content, and who doesn't like that? You're not watching the right channel if you don't. So what I'm going to be doing today is going through the specs. Dave did include the box, which I really do appreciate. You can take a look at what the Mac 2 3.5 inch comes in. Really nice presentation. Digging the artwork. Comes bubble wrapped, and it has date of birth on a metal plate and a little sticker there. So thanks, Dave, for sending that along. I do like to show off what it comes in. I've been handling this for a few days, almost a full week, and I think I'm at a point where I'm ready to go ahead and do the full review. So I'll be going over specs, weighing the knife. I'll bring out some comparison knives for all of you so that you can get an idea of the size of this knife. We'll do some profile comparisons for you so that you can get an idea of the thickness, and then I'll give you my thoughts and impressions and any possible alternative recommendations. Let's go ahead and get the specs out of the way. So as you saw in the box, this is the 3.5 inch version. It has Magna Cut acid washed blade, really good looking. 4.25 inch titanium handles. They are jig textured. I think originally it kind of reminded me of like tree bark, but it's actually called jig texturing. Really good looking. I love the detail of work that goes into that. Overall length is 7.75 inches, which is it's within the range of my favorite size EDC. Again, I do carry other gear, which is why I kind of like that 7.5 to 8 inch range sweet spot. Even 7.25 is usually pretty good. Nice size to carry in the pocket with the rest of my gear. Claimed weight 4.1 ounces. Let's go ahead and throw that on the scale. Feels a little heavy for 4.1, so we'll see if that is accurate. Dead on, 4.1. So feeling pretty good. I'm not quite sure why I thought it might have felt a little bit heavier, but obviously it's dead on for 4.1 ounces. So what I'll go ahead and do is bring out the comparison knives for size reference, just to help you have an idea the size of this knife, and then we'll jump into my thoughts and impressions and some alternative recommendations. First up is going to be the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. As you can see, these two are pretty much identical as far as length. You have a little more girth and handle on the Mac 2. The Yojimbo is a little bit longer in handle, but it is giving you less girth overall. So really kind of where you want to fall as far as your hand position is concerned. I'll go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. As you can see here, the Shaman is going to be a bigger knife overall. Don't have it quite lined up with the base there. So hopefully if you're familiar with these two models, you have an idea. Also, very similar in size to the Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3 as far as these two knives are concerned. So hopefully those references really help you out if you're familiar with those knives. I'll get these out of the way, and we'll go ahead and bring over the crossbar lock knives. First up is going to be the Benchmade Bugout. Really close in size here. The Mac 2 a little bit longer, and obviously it has more presence. There's more girth there. And then I will bring out the SIG K320 made by Hogue, and you can see this is going to be a little bit bigger of a knife, and it's going to have a little bit more weight to it with the aluminum scales, but the polymer is probably going to be really close in weight to the size of the Mac 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these two out of the way, and we'll go ahead and bring in the two budget knives that I use for size comparisons to help you guys understand the size of this knife. First up is going to be the Kubi KU321, which is going to be a smaller knife, sub 3 inch blade, and then I will bring out the Buck 110 sub $30 USA made knife. And as you can see, the Buck is a longer knife overall, but it's just a much slender knife, kind of like a hunting knife, a nice little toolbox knife, something to throw in your truck or a bug out bag or bag, something you don't have to really think about too much, but it's nice to have it just in case you need it. All right, we'll go ahead and get the Buck out of the way, and then we're going to go ahead and do some size comparisons for thickness profile. All right, so here it is against the Kubi KU321. You can see it's a little bit thinner than the Kubi. We'll go ahead and bring the Bugout out here. And the reason I put my thumb here is to level the knives. If I try to do it without the knives there, it's really hard to gauge through the camera. And I think it also kind of helps you guys see where the knife falls. So you can see the Bugout is thinner even with those titanium scales. And last, we bring out the Yojimbo 2, which is roughly the same thickness as the Mac, and it also is the same thickness as the Para 3 if you're more familiar with that knife. Alright, so all the size comparisons are out of the way. Let me go ahead and situate myself here a little bit so I can give you my thoughts and impressions on the McNees Mac 2. So I had, for a little while, I had the 3-inch variant, and it was just way too small. I had it maybe 2 or 3 days. For the price point of this knife, I felt like it was just too small to justify keeping. It's probably one of the only knives I've ever returned. It just did not vibe with me right out the gate. I loved the color and the build quality on it. I love the fact that it's a USA made knife, and the attention to detail and all the handwork that goes into this particular knife. You know, McNees is a little bit smaller and smaller production company, and I would call this like I believe it's called a mid-tech, where it's not quite a custom and it's almost a production. It's kind of in between. So I that's kind of where it falls. A lot of the work's being done in-house. I did see recently where he announced that they're going to be able to do the internal milling of this in-house because they were sending it out. And one of the things that he mentioned when he was talking about that, ooh, do we have a lower setting here? There we go. One of the things that he was talking about is when he was sending it out is that they had this circular pattern that was happening on the milling when they were outsourcing it. Now, really quick, just to show you what it's actually going to look like going forward, it's going to end up looking very much like the milling that you're seeing here on my ZT0562. So it's going to be much more substantial milling, and it's going to be pretty thin where the material that's left on the titanium goes, and I have a feeling that's probably going to impact the weight a little bit. Don't know that Dave will be too happy about that on the newer models, because he likes himself a little bit of a weightier knife. Now let's go ahead and talk about the ergos real quick. Very comfortable in hand. It does offer a nice full 4-finger position. Just a tiny little bit of knife hanging out from me off of the back. I wish the jimping would have gone all the way down. That actually, for me, with my longer fingers, would have been a little bit nicer. I can't really, the jimping back here doesn't make too much sense for me. I think if you had like a smaller hand, it might work. But I think just carrying it all the way down through the rest of the flat would have made a lot of sense. Would have put my hand in a good position, and for any detail work that I wanted to do, I could come out here on the edge, even all the way to the tip of the knife, and have a nice grip. It's not going to really slip a lot on me because of the fact that you have this jig on here, so this is like tons of grip going on with this knife right here. I'm going to go ahead and get one of my only gripes, I think, just about of the knife. It's going to be this pocket clip. I have not, and Dave, you have to let me know if you have. I have not been able to get this to go in and out of the pocket whatsoever. I know I've been carrying it in the organizer in my pocket whenever I've gone anywhere, just to keep it down in the pocket and safe, because I don't want anything to happen to your knife, bro. But I cannot get this when I'm at home to go in and out of the pocket. It just completely misses every time unless I go grab it, pull it up, and then slide it in like this. I can do it one-handed because the cutout actually works perfectly to do that. But I'm a little disappointed, and I kind of wish it would have been deep carry. If this is your main knife and you're carrying it, it's going to leave a ton out, which if this is a work knife and you work with gloves, or if you're in the field and you don't want to go down in the pocket with your hands because they're dirty, this is actually probably going to be an advantage for you to have, let's see, probably stops right about there. So you're going to have about that much knife sticking out. So depending on what you like and what you don't like. One of the other things I would like to see as well, because this is such a beautiful jig pattern here, it does really look like tree bark to me for some reason. I would have loved to see him just use a barrel back here for the lanyard and leave this full on, and just I think it would just look aesthetically so much better. The pivot area is not busy at all. It's just very machined, very straightforward, very functional. It doesn't bother me at all. I think some people may or may not want to have seen something a little bit different in the pivot. For example, I'll bring the ZT back out here. Just a little bit of something there in the pivot perhaps. But for me, really, it's a non-factor. Function over feature. Is that right? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I like the fact that there's a little bit of milling going on with the backspacers. Nice little attention to detail. And really, it is chamfered down all around the edges. It feels really nice. My only hot spot when it's in hand is I can kind of feel a little bit of the lip right there. Once in a while it catches and I can feel just a little bit of sharpness. So I don't know if that's because this has the jig on it, or if there's an opportunity there to knock it down. Lockup's really good. You're looking at about, I would say that's about 35-40% lockup on the back of the knife. Really nice thumb studs on here. They're rounded. They look really good in my opinion. They function really well. This thing has a very heavy detent to it. I don't know if Dave did anything to tune the lock bar, or if this is exactly how it came from McNees, but it has a very solid detent to it. This thing is not going to come out. You're not going to fail it. It's going to lock right up. It has very much fall shut action. I don't know. Dave didn't say anything about tuning on this knife at all. I'm assuming this is exactly how it comes, and it is a guillotine. I actually have worried a couple times because I thought it was going to hit my thumb, and I think it did hit a little bit of the dead skin right there, which I know that's gross, but just wanted to kind of let you know this thing is very nice. If you're into guillotine fall shut action, this is going to give it to you for sure. All right, let's jump into the blade. A little bit of a thicker geometry. This to me very much feels like a work knife. Hard use for sure. I can understand why Dave picked one of them up after seeing them in person. It definitely feels like it's robust enough, even though it's a little bit smaller than what he likes. It's definitely robust enough to where I feel like this thing can do anything that you need it to, and it's pretty slicey. Let me see. All right, I had to grab a couple things. Now, Dave did say he threw an edge on there, and I've only got one other magnet cut knife currently, so I did take it across the strop just a little bit to see how quick or how much time it would take to mirror up, and that was roughly about 5 or 6 on either side, polishing up the blade a little bit. So I think you could easily get a mirror's edge. Very, very nice edge on it. You can tell it is a thicker geometry based on the way that the cardboard wants to curl as you're cutting through it. No resistance. I'm just going through really slow to take a look at it, and then I'll bring a knife out, a piece of paper out to show you just how nice of an edge that is. I don't know if the edge was like this or very close to like this when he picked it up, but it's really got a nice edge done to it, and mirrored up pretty good. You can see a little bit here, I think, where maybe Dave, I guess, nicked it just a touch when he was touching it up, but really it's got a decent sharpening choil on it. Plunge grind is a little closer than I would have liked. I would have liked to seen the plunge grind come out just a teensy bit, but not too bad. Like I said, really nice acid wash. It actually does hide and mask a lot of the scars that are on here. I feel like Dave picked this up new. I feel like you can see right here where he's used and cut with it, and I think that's probably only the second time that I did any cutting with his knife. You know, he said use it, and I appreciate that, and I love him for it, but I'm really just nervous with anyone else's knife, so I'm just going to do the bare minimum to get an idea and an impression of it. And you can just feel that the edge is very well done. It goes through the material without any resistance. The paper lets me know that it's cutting, that it's not tearing. The cardboard just kind of lets me know that, you know, it has a thick geometry because it wants to wrap around the material as it's being pried apart. And that's really all I need to know about the knife. Magnet cut is so new that there's going to be something out there that I'll pick up besides the Bexar that I'll be able to build an impression and determine over. I'm watching reviews and reading up on it. 60, 61 is okay. When you get to 62 and up, it seems like it triggers a big difference on the edge retention. Like it's a huge difference on the edge retention. And I know that's not all that goes into the metal, but that's just something that I've observed and have heard. I'm really researching because I want to make sure I get something with a good heat treat. And I will say the Bexar, being a slip joint, is not a knife that I'm hard using. And I guess that's why it makes sense that it's okay that it's around 60. It seems like a good heat treat, and you know, it opens all my packages just fine. As far as this knife is concerned, it does not have a lock bar insert. It is, I'm assuming, carbidized because it is a titanium frame lock, and that is fine. I think, you know, titanium's a strong material, and long as it doesn't have lock stick, which it has none at all, no reason that can't be done. Great looking knife. I think aesthetically it looks really good. It has a taller drop point. It drops down, but it's at a really tall height. So if you like stuff that you're able to use for utility work, you might want to take a pass on this. Some alternate recommendations that I'm going to make depending on what you're looking for. So if you like the clip point, I'm going to probably recommend the Demco AD 20.5 as a little bit more of an affordable option. If you can swing the price of it, I think another good alternate recommendation for a USA made knife that's around the same price point that might be a little bit more readily available is probably going to be the Slim Midi. You can get this in a drop point or a Tonto. It's a little bit bigger than the Mac 2, but not much, but it is also thinner than the Mac 2. So it does have a thinner profile overall, and I'll bring that up here just so you can see it, but it's just a little bit thinner. I mean, it's, you know, it's not, to me, a huge difference, but you can feel it. You can feel the chunkiness of the Mac 2 versus the Slim Midi. I don't know why I opened the Midi back up. Another knife that this kind of reminds me of, if you don't really care too much about action, is going to be any of the Chris Reeve knives. Now you can get a small Sabenza, which is going to be closer in size to the Mac 2. I don't think I have those lined up very well. It's going to be closer in size to the Mac 2. You can get a small Sabenza, you can get a small Nkosi, or if you have one of the larger knives, because the Umanzan is the same size as my large Nkosi, which I have to assume, because I didn't look at the specs, is the same size as the large Sabenza. And you can get the Chris Reeve knives for a little bit less, but if you like that smooth, fast action guillotine drop shut, you're not going to really get that out of a Chris Reeve knife. So that's why I think the Mac 2 is very interesting. I just got this today, which is why it is not very broken in yet. My Nkosi is very much broken in, but I knew somebody that wanted it, and I let them go ahead and pick that up. So I've wrapped and packed it because I don't want anything to happen to it, because I know that they're waiting on that knife. These are kind of just a couple of alternate recommendations. You know, if you're looking at this video, I'm assuming that you're interested in the knife and can afford it, or that you're just interested in the knife and it's a grail. There's not too much else out there that I'm going to recommend outside of this, because I really do like this knife a lot. Thanks again, Dave, for loaning it to me. I really appreciate it, brother. Really cool of you. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget to hit that notification so you get alerts whenever future content drops. You can pick and choose which videos you want to watch. Give me a follow over on Instagram. Daily post of my gear. I try to make sure I keep it interesting, different shots and things of that nature. So hopefully if you enjoy that, you can follow me over there. Thanks to everyone that is subscribed, that already has the notifications turned on. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the McNees. I really do like this 3.5-inch version. I think it's a great size. I think Dave would love it if it was a 4-inch. All right. Appreciate you tuning in. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.